Picture this. You're slumped in your car at 7:45 a.m., inching through a congested motorway that's more parking lot than road. The radio droning on about the latest economic recovery that somehow bypassed your bank account. The bloke in the BMW next to you sips his overpriced latte, oblivious, while you clutch a lukewarm coffee from home, calculating if you can afford to fill the tank this week. This is the daily grind, the ritual sacrifice of time for a payslip that promises security but delivers chains. Enter Sarah and Mike, two archetypes plucked from the trenches of modern wage warfare. Sarah's your classic stable employee, 35, mid-level manager at a faceless corporation, pulling in $31 an hour, about 50,000 pounds a year after conversions and taxes nibble their share. She clocks in at 9, out at 5, with weekends off but really spent recovering from the exhaustion. Her life is a checklist, mortgage on a semi-detached house that's appreciated just enough to justify the interest bleeding her dry, a sensible car on finance because everyone needs reliable transport, and holidays booked through credit cards for that Instagram-worthy escape. Sarah believes in the system. Promotions will come, pensions will mature, and one day she'll retire to a cottage by the sea. But peek under the hood, her stability is a facade, with every raise swallowed by lifestyle inflation, leaving her perpetually one redundancy away from disaster.
Now flip to Mike, the rebel archetype who's opted out. Same age, same starting point, but he saw the trap early. Instead of chaining himself to a desk, Mike bootstrapped a side hustle, freelance consulting in his niche, while keeping expenses ruthlessly low. No flashy car, he cycles or uses public transport. No sprawling house, a modest flat that he owns outright after aggressive saving. His income fluctuates, but he's built buffers, investments that compound silently, passive streams from digital products. Mike works when he chooses, travels on his terms, and laughs at the corporate ladder because he's building his own empire. Where Sarah's trapped in the hamster wheel, Mike's freewheeling, turning time into wealth rather than trading it away. This contrast isn't accidental, it's engineered. Corporations dangle the $31 an hour carrot, but it's laced with invisible strings that pull you deeper into consumption, ensuring you never escape. My name is Buffett, and I spend way too much time obsessing over the systemic traps that corporations pull to drain your wealth. I've pored over balance sheets, dissected payrolls, and traced the money trails that turn hard-working folk like you into perpetual debtors. Today, we're exposing the $31 an hour lie, the myth that a stable job is your ticket to freedom when it's actually a financial liability, siphoning your future. Let's torch this sacred cow, the notion that a steady job at $31 an hour, or any wage really, is the pinnacle of financial security. It's a script handed down from our grandparents' era, whispered in schools and amplified by HR departments. Get a good education, land a stable role, and climb the ladder. But this is a lie, a carefully crafted narrative that masks the mathematical reality of wealth extraction. In a forensic audit of your payslip, that $31 an hour isn't income, it's bait, luring you into a systemic trap where corporations and governments confiscate your earnings while inflating your costs.
Trace the origin story back to the early 20th century, when industrial titans like Henry Ford engineered the modern wage system not out of benevolence, but to fuel consumption. Ford famously hiked wages to $5 a day in 1914, equivalent to about $150 today, so his workers could afford the very Model T cars they assembled. It wasn't altruism, it was a cartel move to create a captive market. This blueprint spread. Post-World War II, governments and corporations pushed the 9-to-5 as the American dream, or British equivalent, subsidized by cheap credit and consumer goods. But here's the dark twist. Planned obsolescence was baked in. Companies like General Electric and the Phoebus cartel, yes, the light bulb conspiracy of the 1920s, colluded to shorten product lifespans, ensuring you'd buy replacements endlessly. Your stable job became the engine for this cycle. Earn just enough to spend, but never enough to invest meaningfully. Fast forward to today, and the trap has evolved. That $31 an hour? It's eroded by inflation scripted by central banks. Think the Bank of England's quantitative easing, flooding the system with money that devalues your savings while propping up asset bubbles for the elite. Corporations like Amazon or Tesco weaponize this by underpaying while pushing essentials that aren't. Smartphones that need upgrading every 2 years, subscriptions that auto-renew like leeches. The forensic audit reveals the lie. Your job isn't stable, it's a liability because it locks you into predictable spending patterns. Historical data shows wage growth lagging productivity by 60% since the 1970s. Workers produce more, but the surplus is siphoned to shareholders. In the UK, real wages have stagnated since 2008, yet corporate profits hit record highs. This isn't coincidence, it's engineered dependency, turning owners, you with your labor, into consumers beholden to the system. The mathematical reality? Stability is an illusion. Redundancies, automation, and economic downturns, like the 2008 crash or COVID layoffs, expose the fragility. Your job drains not just time, but opportunity, as we'll calculate later. It's a systemic trap designed to keep you compliant, spending, and never questioning the invisible strings pulling your strings. Now, let's dissect the psychological glitch that makes this $31 an hour trap so insidious. It preys on our wired-in flaws, turning rational humans into impulse-driven spenders. Corporations don't just sell products, they manage your pain points and weaponize your ego, ensuring that stable income flows right back to them. At the core is the hedonic treadmill, that relentless cycle where we adapt to improvements in our lives, chasing ever higher highs that never satisfy. You get a raise, feel euphoric for a month, then baseline resets. Suddenly, that $31 an hour feels insufficient, prompting upgrades like a bigger house or fancier car. Psychologists like Brickman and Campbell coined this in the 1970s, showing lottery winners and accident victims returning to baseline happiness. In the job context, it means your stable salary lulls you into complacency, but marketing exploits the treadmill by dangling aspirational lifestyles. Enter the decoy effect, another weapon in the arsenal. When you're upselling yourself post-payday, say eyeing phones or holidays, corporations introduce decoys to steer choices. Picture 3 job perks: basic health insurance, A, premium with extras for £50 a month, B, and a decoy premium without extras for £60, C. Suddenly, B looks like a bargain, extracting more from your wage. Dan Ariely's research shows this glitch makes us irrational. We compare relative value, not absolute, so that $31 an hour gets chipped away on deals that aren't. Marketing teams at firms like Apple or Virgin weaponize this ego boost. You've earned it, they whisper, framing upgrades as status symbols. Your stable job becomes the enabler, with ego stroked by LinkedIn promotions that scream success, but really chain you to debt.
Then there's Parkinson's law, the sneaky rule that work and spending expands to fill available time and money. Cyril Northcote Parkinson observed in 1955 that bureaucracies bloat regardless of workload. Apply it to your finances, and that $31 an hour salary gets devoured by expenses that naturally rise. No buffer, bills inflate, new gadgets, dining out to match income, leaving zero for investment. Corporations amplify this with targeted ads. Facebook algorithms detect your pay cycle, flooding feeds with temptations during decompression windows after work. They manage pain by normalizing overspending as self-care, weaponizing ego through FOMO, fear of missing out. You think, I deserve this after slaving away, but it's a glitch. Dopamine hits from purchases mask the long-term drain. These concepts converge in the job liability. The treadmill keeps you running, decoys divert funds, and Parkinson's ensures leakage. Marketing doesn't force, it nudges, turning your psychology against you. Break free? Recognize the glitches, question every urge, audit impulses. But until then, your stable job is the perfect vector for extraction. Time for the brutal audit. Let's wield the scalpel on that $31 an hour myth with cold, hard numbers, exposing how your stable job is bleeding your wealth through hidden costs and opportunity drains.
We'll calculate the real hourly wage, stripping away the illusions to reveal the mathematical inevitability of this liability. Start with gross, $31 an hour, or about 24 pounds post-conversion for UK context. But subtract the confiscations, income tax, and national insurance, nibble 25 to 30% off the top. Call it 28% average for a 50K earner. That's 17 pounds 28 pence an hour net. Now factor commutes. 1 hour daily round trip at 5 pounds in fuel or public transport, plus wear on your vehicle or sanity. That's another 2 pounds 50 an hour deducted when amortized over 8-hour days. Decompression spending. After grinding, you unwind with 10-pound takeaways or 5-pound pints, conservatively 15 pounds a week or 0.75 pounds per hour over 200 working days. Add work-related costs, suits, lunches, coffee, 20 pounds a week, another pound per hour. Your real hourly wage, 13 pounds per hour. That's the forensic truth. You're not earning $31. Corporations and habits are siphoning over half before you see it. But the real killer is opportunity cost, what that time and money could compound into if not trapped. Let's crunch. Assume 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, 2,000 hours annually at $31 gross, 50,000 pounds pre-tax. Net after 28% tax, 36,000 pounds. Subtract 5,000 pounds annual commute and decompression as above, leaving 31,000 pounds true take-home. Now the liability amplifies. That job locks you out of scaling. Opportunity cost? Redirect half your hours to side hustles or investments. Say you invest 1,000 pounds a month or 12,000 pounds a year from efficiencies at 7% annual return, historical stock market average, compounded over 30 years, 1.2 million pounds. That's not fluff. It's the rule of 72 in action. Money doubles every 10 years at 7%. But the $31 lie extracts more. Lifestyle inflation from the treadmill means 50% of raises go to new expenses. A 5% raise, 2,500 pounds a year, gets halved by taxes, 1,750 pounds net, then 875 pounds vanishes on upgrades, subscriptions, gadgets, leaving 875 pounds actual gain. Over 30 years, assuming 3% annual raises, that's 150,000 pounds confiscated by inflation traps. Forensic math shows the job as a liability. It drowns you in fixed costs. Mortgage, 1,200 pounds a month on a 250,000 pound house at 4% interest. Over 25 years, you pay 180,000 pounds in interest alone, more than principal. Car on finance, 300 pounds a month for 5 years totals 18,000 pounds, but depreciation extracts 10,000 pounds value loss.
Compounded a small 50-pound per month streaming/subscription bundle over 30 years at 3% inflation-adjusted opportunity cost. Foregone investment, $34,000 loss. Scale to full spending? If 70% of income goes to liabilities, housing, transport, taxes, your job enables $1.05 million drained over a career versus investing 30%, $450K invested becomes $3.8 million at 7. The mathematical inevitability? Stability equals stagnation. Your job isn't an asset. It's a depreciating liability, extracting freedom 1 hour at a time. All right, rebels, enough dissection. Let's arm you to hack the system and buy back your freedom. This isn't fluffy advice. It's a framework for small acts of rebellion against the corporate cartel, opting out of the $31 an hour cycle with cold, hard ROI. Start with the one income rule. Live entirely off one partner's salary, or 50% of yours if single, funneling the rest into a cash moat, a high-yield savings buffer covering 12 to 24 months' expenses. Why? It severs the invisible strings. Redundancy hits and you're not scrambling. ROI, at 4% interest, a 50K moat yields $2,000 a year passively. Free money while you plot escapes. Next, deploy time buckets.
Divide your week into non-negotiable slots: 40% wage work, minimize it; 30% skill building, courses, side hustles; 20% investing, automate into index funds; 10% rebellion, networking anti-system allies. This hacks Parkinson's law, compressing bloat and extracting value from time. Frame it as defiance. Every hour clawed back is a jab at the 9-to-5 script. Build passive streams, digital products, rentals, targeting 20% of income replaced yearly. Mathematical edge? 5K invested annually at 7% snowballs to 500K in 25 years, covering basics and letting you quit the liability. Weaponize minimalism. Audit expenses brutally. Cut decompression traps. Cook bulk meals. Save 200 pounds per month. Cycle commutes. Save 100 pounds per month. Redirect to a freedom fund. Aim for 25x annual expenses, the 4% rule for retirement. For 30K per year living, that's 750K. Hit it by 50 and you're out. Rebellion tactic. Ghost the cartel. Cancel auto renews. Negotiate bills aggressively. Use cash to avoid tracking. This opts out of ego weaponizing ads. Your ego rebuilds on independence, not consumption. Scale up. Transition to ownership. Freelance. Start a micro business. Use job as launchpad, not lifeline. Save 50% income ruthlessly. ROI inevitability. Compound savings beat wage growth. Frame discipline as insurgency. Each skipped latte is confiscating back from the system. Track with apps, but own your data. No cloud leeches. Ultimately, buy back freedom. One bucket, one moat at a time. You're not a consumer. You're a force dismantling the trap. If this exposed the strings for you, smash that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges how you think about money. Remember, questioning the $31 lie is your first rebellion. I'll see you in the next one.